Hello, my friends and colleagues. I'm Dr. Samantha Hill, President of the Ontario Medical Association, and I'm so glad that you could join Dr. Michelle Jacobson, a Toronto-based OBGYN, and I to learn more about the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is an 8-9 celebration which begins December 10th and is celebrated with latkes, that's potato pancakes, sufganiyot, delicious fried jelly donuts, and a gambling game that we teach our kids, along with gelt, which are chocolate coins. Hi, Dr. Jacobson. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Dr. Hill. Thanks so much for asking me to join you. It's my pleasure.
So I often hear Hanukkah described as the Jewish Christmas because of the similar timing and the history of gift giving, but they're really quite different. Christmas obviously celebrated the birth of Jesus Christ, but would you like to tell everyone the story of Hanukkah?
I'd love to. Hopefully my Hebrew school teachers won't be judging me as I go through this. Essentially, the story of Hanukkah happens approximately in about 200 BC and takes place in Jerusalem, at which time it was under Assyrian rule. And Antiochus Epiphanes was the ruler at the time, and his platform was sort of to outlaw the practice of Judaism and to try and encourage with a strong hand all of the practicing Jews to convert to practice Greek and Syrian culture. So he outlawed being Jewish, desecrated the Second Temple, essentially looked for and massacred lots of different Jewish families for practicing Judaism. And that was the initiation of what's called the Maccabean Revolt, where there was a man named Matityahu, and he had a number of sons, the leader of whom was Judah the Maccabee. And there was an uprising led by the Maccabean boys. And they, sort of in the usual Jewish fashion, commandeered a small army to attack the overwhelming Greek and Syrian rulers, and a great miracle happened whereby not only did they win the war, but also they had a mandate to replace the oil in the menorah in the synagogue. And so they only found enough oil at the time that should have lasted a single day. But as they went and searched for more oil to keep the eternal flame glowing, the small amount of oil that was there lasted for 8 days. And that's sort of the two major miracles that we talk about at the time of Hanukkah.
I think you did great. Your Hebrew teachers would be proud. So, like a lot of Jewish holidays, Hanukkah is a remembrance of persecution, but more so perseverance and survival. And today I find that a particularly poignant message during these dark days of COVID, lockdowns, and social isolation.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You know, a lot of Jewish holidays are really centered around family gatherings and celebrating a time where Jewish people were being persecuted, but despite being against all odds, managed to rise above and fight discrimination. And I think, you know, with everything going on in the world today, with the pandemic, with social isolation, with so much unrest south of the border, and with so much worldwide discrimination, you know, among lots of different groups and movements, which are so important that really focus on anti-discrimination, the message of Hanukkah can be extrapolated to so much more than just Jewish people, but to any group that has felt persecuted and who has managed to rise.
Particularly this year, that idea of rising above and anti-discrimination does seem very relevant. But, you know, that's all very academic, really, for most of us. Hanukkah is just about hanging out with the family, isn't it?
And of course, the sufganiyot that you mentioned before.
My fondest, earliest memories of Hanukkah are the busyness of my grandmother, my aunts, and my uncles bustling in and out of the tiny little kitchen in downtown Montreal, with the smell of hot oil in everyone's hair that lingered for days afterwards. What's your favorite part of Hanukkah?
Having spent most of the year being keto, I think it's so awesome that we're celebrating a holiday that focuses on oil and fried foods. You can't forget the delicious food that we serve at Hanukkah. So everything is fried in oil to remember the oil that lasted 8 days, like we talked about. So fried latkes, fried jelly donuts, sufganiyot. I can remember Hanukkah parties with our extended family when I was a small child, where everybody would get together and exchange small gifts. And my mother giving me a small present every day that always sort of followed a theme and culminated in one large gift at the end, so that you didn't really feel necessarily like you were missing out on the Christmas spirit when some of your other friends may have celebrated Christmas. For my own family, we've always thrown a big sort of neighborhood party where everybody would come over with a bit of a potluck, and we would play dreidel and sing Hanukkah songs. And that's the part that we will miss the most this year. But I have to say, with how busy myself, and I'm sure most Ontario physicians have been, I definitely don't miss the idea of planning that party this year and preparing. So.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about the differences this year, and for sure, we're begging everyone to stay home, particularly in Toronto, not to go spend time with your family. We know how hard it is, but it's much harder to lose a family member. So, we both have young kids. I think mine are still a little bit younger than yours. How are you going to make this ring true this year, despite not being able to get together with your family?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, my older daughter, who goes to Jewish school, really has the flavor of Hanukkah, even with everything she learns. So what I love most about it is she, is learning to count, but maybe this year she'll be counting dreidels or learning to cook latkes and counting out different amounts in a recipe. Like, these are the ways that we let things like Hanukkah and the Jewish holidays really flavor our daily life and our daily learning. My little one, who's in daycare, we're hosting a big menorah lighting on our front lawn that's been cleared by public health, where neighborhood families are going to be able to walk by one and see the Hanukkah being lit. And I think just even walking up and down the street and seeing the odd Hanukkah in a neighbor's window is going to remind us that we're all celebrating inside, even though we can't necessarily be celebrating together.
That sounds amazing. I can't wait to see pictures of the outside ceremony. You'll have to take some, okay?
Absolutely.
So I agree, though. There's a lot around the candles, eh? The traditional candle lighting, the prayers, the melodies, those ancient tunes that they just kind of transcend everything else. I really look forward to hearing my kid, who, my eldest is now in school as well, and comes home singing the same songs that I remember learning when I was that age. And for me, we'll be doing it quietly. We'll be doing it by Zoom, in the window, of course. But it's hearing those songs and hearing those melodies that really brings me back to the community and the traditions of Judaism.
Absolutely. I always sort of think about the way we keep our culture from generation to generation, the stories we pass down, the songs that we pass down, the language. It's not so different to the practice of medicine, the teaching of surgery, the teaching of dogma and methodology, the fact that on the inside we all have similar parts, and that we can perform surgeries in similar ways. That always resonates with me as being similar to passing down culture and lessons from generation to generation. So I can't wait to celebrate Hanukkah with my family. The Jewish month is Kislev that we celebrate Hanukkah in. And I always thought it was funny that Hanukkah falls on the 25th of Kislev, just like Christmas falls on the 25th of December. So starting this Thursday night, we'll be lighting our first candle and putting our Hanukkah in the window and singing the same blessings that so many families around the province and the country and the world are going to be singing. And just knowing that those similarities are going to be occurring simultaneously in families of all different shapes and sizes, especially this year, is really heartwarming. And I wore my Hanukkah shirt for you today.
I love that Hanukkah shirt. I'm jealous. Again, then, it's that theory of being united even while apart, eh?
Exactly. And, I think for Jews in Ontario, that practice and that sort of think about what Judaism means to them, that's something that's such a really familiar story, is, keeping our culture going no matter where we are, no matter how far apart we are. We all celebrate the same holidays on the same day and say the same blessings and sing the same songs and tell the same stories. And that's how we keep our culture going.
Absolutely true. That was lovely, Dr. Jacobson. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our colleagues before we go?
Just a Chag Sameach to everybody.
Chag Sameach to everyone celebrating. Stay safe.